Welcome to Mark My Words, a podcast that not only aims to inspire and teach the listener about entrepreneurship, it also aims to give my guests an opportunity to talk about their unique journey in entrepreneurship and life. So join me and my guests as we meet at the crossroads on Mark My Words. In this day and age, it is very hard to stay with the same company, let alone stay in the same career path or the same field for your entire career. However, my guest today, Colin Hirdman, has been in the same field since he graduated from college in the 90s. And although he graduated with a BA in criminal justice, he didn't stay in the criminal justice field. Instead, back before it was a little more fashionable, he decided to step into the entrepreneurial world, which I'm sure has changed quite a bit since those days. He has quite a resume. He is like the co-founder of pretty much everything except for like Apple and Microsoft. Like he's co-founder of a lot of companies. The two that he highlights these days, at least in his social media and the video that I watched, Monkey Island Ventures, which is a company that he started with two childhood friends back in 2006, and also Rainmaker, which helps individuals, coaches, and I suppose anybody who wants to help with their LinkedIn network leads sales through an authentic engine. And LinkedIn is something I'm very passionate about. So I'm really excited to talk about that and just excited to talk to Colin in general. How you doing today, Colin?
I'm doing excellent, Mark. Thanks so much for that introduction. Unfortunately, yeah, a lot of the those businesses are in the graveyard at this point, but that's part of entrepreneurship. You live and learn.
Exactly. And if nothing else, it gives us a lot to talk about, and maybe a
Hmm.
lesson or two will come out of that along the way. So, before we get into that part of your journey, let's talk a little bit about criminal justice. So, I'm guessing that, and you can tell the story. I guess I should just let you tell the story of how you decided on that major, but you did that major and then you jumped into entrepreneurship right out of college instead. Tell the story
Hmm.
on how that unfolded.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. So I think I settled on criminal justice because I could graduate in 4 years. I was looking at elementary education and physical sports therapy as two other options, but I would have had to stay in school longer. So hence the criminal justice degree. Getting into business was just kind of a chance thing. I had an opportunity to start a direct mail data processing business. This was kind of at the very, very early days of the internet, so that wasn't really an option at that point. And so I did that, and so that's kind of how I got introduced to entrepreneurship. I never took a marketing, a business, or an accounting class in college, so it was all trial by fire.
Wow. So what was the most challenging thing back then other than you're having to learn on the fly, learn as you go? What were some of the challenges that you faced that maybe other people starting a business today wouldn't
Hmm.
stumble across?
Yeah. So yeah, definitely there's a lot of trials and tribulations early on. Part of it obviously is the learning curve of starting a business. I think I always had aspirations of wanting to grow a business, not have it just be me. So there was always kind of that pressure of like learning how to do marketing, learning how to do sales, making sure that customers are happy and taking care of your customers. Um, but I think some of the things I learned early on too was as I hired employees was to hire good people and rely on them to do the things that maybe I didn't enjoy doing or that I wasn't good at. And I really began to really love that process of growing a business and doing it in a way that I think is very creative by nature. A lot of times when we think of creativity, we think of, artists and musicians but at its core, building a business is very creative in nature. Every aspect of it, of what is it that I'm going to offer as a service or product? How am I going to offer it? What does my brand look like? How will people see my brand? How do I structure the way that I do the work? How do I structure my employees? Roles and all that. So, entrepreneurship is a creative endeavor, innately in that process, which I think is a wonderful thing. And we need more and more people to see entrepreneurship as an avenue for them to um, create a career around.
I totally agree with you. And I think just doing this show really opened up my eyes as far as the license it gives me to explore creativity in a
Hmm.
way that I don't usually get to explore. And I love my day job. My day job is very cool. I have a very
Yeah.
cool life, and it's a very creative field. But I don't get a whole lot of opportunities to really explore creativity and to just
Mm.
have an endless array of, the sky's the limit, really. I can be as creative or not as creative as I want to be. And I think if more people knew, regardless of what their passion was, just how liberating it is to have your own business, whether it's a big business, a real small business, a side hustle. You can really find a lot of fulfillment
Hmm.
creatively by running your own business and putting yourself out there. It's amazing.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. No, totally agree. And I think for some people, they can latch on to a business that really fulfills their desire to perform that kind of work. I find myself in a camp where, um, I like change and I enjoy doing different types of work. And I think that's probably why I have such a varied history with the different companies that I have had over the years.
That's an interesting thought as well, because I have found as I've gotten older, and maybe I knew this 25 years ago, I jumped from before I graduated college, I jumped from job to job to job. I had so many ideas. I wanted to be an over the road truck driver at one time, which thankfully I did not send that application in because I think I would have been terrible at it, even though it looks
Hmm.
like a really cool life to me. But
Right.
I, I have found that even though I don't have like 20 different businesses, I don't have the kind of paths that you have, but I'm always thinking about what else I could do. And I always had that in me when I was younger. And it's interesting you say that because I'm like, I wonder if I should have done the same thing Colin did and just come right out of college and started a business or two and had just been an entrepreneur my whole career. But here we are.
Yep. You never know where life will take you. That's for sure. I certainly would have never envisioned this as a path when I was in college. And, I think. for me, part of what I think keeps me going through a lot of the trials and tribulations and struggles of being an entrepreneur is, when I'm, 90 years old, I want to be able to look back on a life that was filled with a lot of um, variation and successes, but those failures are part of the story as well. And I will feel much more fulfilled having known that I tried and failed, um, and that some of those tries also end up as successes. Even if most turn into failures, you're still learning along the way. And I think you talk to most entrepreneurs, and they'll say they learn way more from their failures than they do their successes. And I think that's very true. I think the other thing that's really helped me out, since 2007 is having two business partners in Monkey Island that I've known since we were kids. So that makes a big difference as well.
So when I have a really good episode or I make contact with somebody that really makes me feel energized or something else happens that is really positive, it gives me a very good feeling and I
Hmm.
get something out of it. But when something goes wrong or something in my mind fails or I don't get what I want for whatever reason, those are the things that really stick with you. Maybe that's just
Hmm.
human nature, but
Hmm.
I agree that definitely the failures and the mistakes are the things that stick with me, and those are the things that I'm like, okay, don't do that again.
Yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, I wish that was the case for me, but there has definitely been a few times where I've made the same mistake more than once, and I'm just like, oh, you did it again.
Well, that is also human
Yep.
nature.
Hmm.
Sometimes we make the same
Yeah.
mistake over and over.
Yep. 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 No, you try and mitigate that and try not make mistakes over and over. And the reality is that the vast majority of decisions that you make that don't go the way that you want or don't work out well generally are not catastrophic, and you're able to, kind of pivot from there. So, also, yeah, not taking the decisions you make or life too seriously.
And that's a very important lesson, especially for me, yours truly, because sometimes when something goes wrong, and I've tried to work on it and not really let it get me in the gut so hard, but
Hmm.
when something does go astray and you feel like, oh man, this is like my business, this is my baby, this is
Mm.
reflective of me. This isn't just reflective of XYZ corporation and I'm the one who made that mistake. Like, this is me. And
Mm.
it's important to not take it so dramatically because, as you pointed out, there is always a way to dig out, there's always a way to adjust. I totally agree.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, and I think that's probably been a big, you know portion of my entrepreneurial journey was, having had that first company, and then, had it for 11 years and then sold it. And then I started Monkey Island Ventures with Josh and Zach back in 2007. And Josh, Zach, and I, we've all known each other since, yeah, we were about 5 years old. And Monkey Island is named after a park that we played at when we were kids. And kind of underneath that holding company, that umbrella, are a lot of the other companies that we've started, yeah, over the last, yeah, 17 years now.
And that's really cool. I'm sure that that's a really like fulfilling thing for you to not only start that new business with your childhood friends, but the fact that you all are still friends all these years later and working
Hmm.
together. And there is something about that that just really, for me, even though I'm not you, it's like, man, I just feel really at home and there's just so much trust there probably. I mean,
Hmm.
that's gotta be amazing.
Yeah, no, it's wonderful being able to have business partners that, will put um, our relationship ahead of business. And yeah, we even came up with the 5 Fs um, around, the way that we conduct our business relationship is, it's finance, family, freedom, um, friendship, and fun. And that's what we live by, those 5 Fs. And yeah, it's been great because there's times where, you know, um, one or two of us might be down about something, and the third one will pick the other two up, or and it's just great. And so yeah, so we've have built a number of technology companies, SaaS companies over the years. Um, have built a couple of service-based businesses, one around software development, another around software, and the other around digital marketing. And um, yeah, we employ around 40 people and are based in Minneapolis, and but we still have ideas for other, products that we want to build. And yeah, most of the software products that we built in the past, they didn't work, and that's one thing of advice for existing founders or aspiring entrepreneurs is you know there's nothing wrong with starting a business where there's already a market, right? You're not creating something that's net new. You're building something where there's already a need, and you feel like you could capture a segment of that market. Um, that creating a service-based business um, in what we would call like a red ocean, where there's lots of competitors, but there's also a lot of demand for what you do. That's one of the easiest ways to start to scale a business, versus trying to do something, net new that the world, may never really have seen before, or you don't really know how much of a market there is for it. There's a much higher failure rate, and unfortunately, a lot of the businesses that we've tried over the years have been businesses that are bringing something kind of new. And so what we realize when we get to trying to get product market fit is there really just isn't a market for your product. And that is a very frustrating thing.
From my perspective, I feel like you're really nailing it because I'm sure there are thousands upon thousands of entrepreneurial podcasts out there. And I went into doing this show knowing that that was probably the case, but it's all about bringing your own flavor and your own energy and bringing maybe something to the table that is, and it's even hard to pinpoint how to
Hmm.
know you really are bringing something that everybody else isn't bringing. I guess what you're bringing that everybody else isn't bringing is you as an individual. And I mean, I think that's a great perspective that you're not killing yourself or being super hard on yourself to reinvent the wheel or come up with,
Hmm.
you know, invent sliced bread or whatever. You're just
Right.
doing
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. No, exactly. And, if you would have asked me, you know, 7 months ago if I would be doing Rainmaker, right now I would probably said no. So again, it's identifying opportunity. It's taking a chance on something that you think will work, and it's starting to get signals from the market that what you are offering is something that people want. And you know, using LinkedIn as a way for businesses to grow their leads and sales is something that I think a lot of founders and sales teams and are really interested in. And so that's been a really nice, kind of feedback loop is putting something out there and getting people interested in wanting to talk to you. Our probably biggest success in doing that was in like 2013. We released a product called Local Tweets, which was built on top of Twitter. And you'd sign up with your Twitter profile in our software, and then it would associate you with your zip code, city, and state because you're putting in your zip code. And then a tweet would go out through your account saying that you just signed up at that zip code. And the product went viral. We signed like 30,000 users in 2 days, and we were a trending topic on Twitter. And yeah, it was pretty amazing. But we didn't have a monetization strategy, so we didn't really make any money off of that. But getting that kind of use and feedback, it's really exhilarating. It's really fun. I'm not getting anywhere near that type of like a viral loop with Rainmaker, but I am certainly figuring out what it is that the market wants, and I'm leveraging my own software and process to do that. So I'm kind of eating my own dog food while I'm building the business.
So, speaking of eating your own dog food, so to speak, as the decision maker, and you've been a decision maker for the past 29, 30 years, you've had to
Hmm.
hire staff, you've had to make all kinds of decisions, as you pointed out just previously there. What does it take to, I guess, have the right instinct and the right gut call or just the right strategy? What does it take? What do you think it takes to really build success and hire the right people? What does that take, do you think?
Okay, and so you want me to answer that strictly around like hiring the right people?
You let's start there for lack of
Sure.
trying not
Yeah.
to badger
No,
you
that's
with too
good.
many questions.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's good. I think for me, like Jim Collins said, from good to great, it's getting the right people on the bus, right? You want people that believe in what the company is trying to accomplish, that they believe in playing a role in that and feeling like they can make a difference, feeling like they're empowered in their role, is really really important. And those are the kind of people that you want, people that will take on responsibility, be resourceful, and that work well with others. And so I think there's not uh, an owner out there that hasn't made a hiring decision and wish they wouldn't have made that. So you're gonna make mistakes, but the I think one of the old adages is like hire slow, fire quick, right? So you want to just do your diligence, make sure you're getting people that are going to be a good cultural fit. Number one, that's the most important thing. And then number two are going to play, a role to that role's responsibilities in a way that they can thrive and that the business can thrive. So just generally speaking, I would say that is ultra important when it comes to hiring.
And I think being resourceful, especially in this day and age where we're all working a little more remotely, I think that's
Hmm.
so important because I feel like if you are on your own already, as even though you're a part of a company, but you're not in an office environment or not there as much as maybe you would have been 30, 40 years ago, you really have
Hmm.
to learn to understand and rely on yourself and your own instincts. It's almost like being a mini entrepreneur when you're
Hmm.
asking yourself or even asking somebody on your staff to be resourceful. I always put on my resume that I'm resourceful. I don't know if that comes across the wrong way or not, but I feel like that's a good skill to have.
Absolutely, it is. Yeah, yeah. No, I mean that's the ideal scenario that you go into a role and you can kind of just take things and run with it and do what needs to be done with a lot without a lot of oversight.
And I will now transition to the other part of the question that I was trying to ask, sandwich with
Hmm.
the personnel question. And I'll try to do that to the best of my ability. But as an entrepreneur, you're making a lot of decisions based on the business and trusting your instincts and even in your partnership. How do
Hmm.
you go about trusting your gut to make the right calls in the interest of the business?
Yeah, it's hard. You don't want paralysis by analysis, where you are putting off decisions. Again, most decisions, even if you make the wrong call, are not catastrophic. You're able to bounce back from that. So I would say try and make decisions, get enough data to where you feel fairly comfortable making the decision, and then just do it. Um, oh, so that's the main thing. I think, as it pertains to like growth and things like that, there's ways of um, getting getting a feel for what it is that you're putting out there. If you're putting stuff out and you're not getting any kind of a response to it, if people just are apathetic, just don't care, especially from a marketing or a sales perspective, then you're probably not um, tracking the way you'd want, and so you're going to need to make some changes. So you should feel some momentum coming back to you if you're doing things the right way. The other thing too, just generally when you're running a business, is um, it's you. Yes, you want to be planful and you want to mitigate risk and all that, but at the same time, risk is inherent in doing running a business. And I generally feel like you're going to start to feel pressure in certain areas. Um, and that is when you want to address things. So, like, maybe you don't have a lot of business, but you're just starting out and now you're doing marketing and sales. Well, pretty soon, maybe you're filling your pipeline enough that, like, your process is a little bit wonky. And so maybe you want to spend some time to get your process streamlined. Well, the reason why you're doing that is because you're spending time probably inefficiently in the way that you're doing marketing sales, because you have so much that's happening now, right? You're feeling that pressure. Or maybe you're feeling like, oh my gosh, I'm working, 10 to 12 hours a day. And my business is making money, but I'm really working hard. Well, now there's pressure to maybe look to hire someone. Now, whether you hire someone part-time or full-time or local or, overseas, that's up to you to discover. But I think you start to feel pressure in your business in these different areas. And when you start to feel that pressure, that's a good indication that you should start spending some time there. But too often, I think entrepreneurs get way too focused in on stuff that they shouldn't be.
Well, speaking of pressure and focus and grinding it out, what are some things that you do in order to maintain balance and to not burn out because you're running an awful lot? Like you, at this point, you have two businesses plus blockchain and maybe or maybe not some of these other things on your LinkedIn profile. So, what do you do to maintain balance and to prevent yourself from burning out?
Yeah, that's a great question, Mark. So I think a few things. So one is, um, is what you're working on exciting? And so, when I look at my businesses, I started to buy, some real estate back in 2008 after everything crashed. And then I started Monkey Island Ventures with Josh and Zach. And so now we have, a digital marketing company and a software development company, and they generate revenue. And, I've been standing up Rainmaker now the last 6 months, and that's starting to generate revenue. So I've been diversified, but I've done that over a couple of decades, right? So that doesn't just happen. So, um, and then I think the other thing is what you're working on giving you energy back, right? So it doesn't mean that you don't need to take breaks or go on vacation, but, like, are you enjoying what you're working on? And doing podcasts like this with someone like you, I enjoy sharing my entrepreneurial journey. I enjoy sharing, how I think founders and entrepreneurs can succeed on LinkedIn. Like I like sharing that education, and that gives me energy just being on shows like this. So I think you just need to be acutely aware of, you know, work that's draining. All work is draining, but is it draining in a way that you feel like you're moving forward and that you're building something of significance and you're enjoying that process, even though it's work? Or is it draining where you're feeling depressed and you don't really like the field you're in, you're not liking the work? So I think those are two very different things, and you need to be honest with yourself and take that all into consideration.
The positive energy that your work gives you is very, very important because, yeah, you can have a great idea and you can even have success, but if you're not enjoying yourself, if you're not getting that positive energy that really makes you feel like pushing forward, and it may not even be pushing you, it may just be a very natural feeling. I feel like you have to have that, especially for somebody like me. I'm it. It begins and ends with me. So if I'm not enjoying it, why am I doing it? So
Yeah,
you really
exactly.
have to have that energy in order to not burn out. Because when I don't
Hmm.
have that energy, or when I'm feeling bogged down, even by things that are outside of this show, I'll have to
Hmm.
take a little bit of a break and refresh my
Yep.
mind a little bit. So it's important to be aware of those things, in my opinion.
Totally agree. And I think that's part of it too is, if you're a solopreneur, if you're kind of, the only decision maker, getting into like peer groups where you can be around other entrepreneurs, other founders, is a really good thing. And if you can find a business partner or two that you truly trust through and through, they can share in that journey because yeah, it's great to be able to have other people that you can talk things through with and are supportive of you and your efforts.
So, speaking of support and your efforts, and speaking to somebody who has a business that's tied to LinkedIn and success on LinkedIn, curious to know what made you want to start going up that path. And
Hmm.
I know what interests me about LinkedIn, and I think you were going to say something, so I'll let you say it.
No, I mean, I think you're, kind of my path to starting Rainmaker. I've been doing LinkedIn automation for over 5 years on a lot of the products and services that we have. So I've gotten like the head of SEO globally for Lenovo computers to jump on some calls and to demo a software product that I had built. So that kind of cold outreach works. But I went to my business partner 6 months ago and said, I think I could really build a business out of LinkedIn, and that's kind of the birth of Rainmaker. And what I love about it is talking strategy and tactics and doing it in a way that anybody can take these strategies and go do it themselves manually. Really, the people are hiring me and Rainmaker for strategy, which I do for free, like I'm doing on your podcast now, um, and then for automating out kind of best practice LinkedIn behavior. So I'm really well, I love working with, founders, entrepreneurs, business coaches, sales teams, and helping them kind of think about how they're growing their first degree network and then how they can use LinkedIn to drive leads and sales. But when I think about LinkedIn, I break it up kind of into three areas. The top is um, my LinkedIn philosophy. The second is audience. And then the bottom layer is campaign strategies and tactics. So when I think about LinkedIn philosophically, I think, you have to come in authentically as who you are as a person and communicate just as you would. And I think generally the tone is more conversational on LinkedIn. Then you also have to be authentic to the brand or brands you're representing. Um, then the other thing is really coming in with an educational mindset because nobody wants to be sold on LinkedIn. Okay. But I think virtually everyone's willing to be educated on LinkedIn. And then the final piece really to that philosophical layer, and this is where I put a lot of pressure, I think, and responsibility onto other founders and sales and marketing people is, you know, you have to know the pains and the barriers that your prospects are trying to overcome. You have to know what they want to be educated about. And the most important thing is you have to specifically understand and know what it is they want to learn from you. And if you can crack that nut, if you can figure out what your prospects want to learn from you on LinkedIn, especially for any B2B company, you can do really well and grow your business using LinkedIn strategies. So that's how I think about it, philosophically is around using LinkedIn in that way. So,
You absolutely
Judy,
nailed it. I
yeah.
mean, you have to be authentic. It's not like Instagram or even Facebook where you can invent a character or be something
Hmm.
that you're not. You can't
Yep.
really get away with that because people will know right away that you're not being authentic. So,
Yep.
authenticity is everything. And I will also say, anytime that somebody has approached me, especially in DMs, and tried right off the
Hmm.
bat to sell me
Hmm.
something, I'm
Yep.
just automatically like, nope, I don't want this. And even
Yep.
it really doesn't matter what platform it is. Doesn't even matter necessarily if you email me. If you try to sell me
Right.
on something, I'm most
Exactly.
likely, unless you have super professional signature and you're a
Hmm.
brand that looks trustworthy, okay, maybe I'll think about it. But
Yep.
I have to feel something, or your your cold message is just gonna get deleted.
Yep, exactly. And so one of the things that I think about with um, kind of the next layer down around the audience is honing in on your audience. I use Sales Navigator really to build all the audiences that I want to build. And that works out really incredibly well. But one of the things that I've noticed is like getting closer toward audience intent. So if you have a business that provides a specific service, if you go to LinkedIn events and you look at your direct competitors, or you find people that are, um, like an industry organization or association, if these entities are putting on LinkedIn events that your company solves for or tangentially solves for, if you go and click attend on those events, then you can see everyone else that's also attending that event. And what you can do then is create an audience of all these people that are already kind of publicly raising their hand and saying, I'm interested in this LinkedIn topic because you can see that I'm signed up for this event. So that's one way of thinking about kind of shortcutting your way to identifying people that might be open to connecting with you and potentially becoming a customer. Another is using a person as a proxy. So, there's a woman on LinkedIn. She does a great job talking about how to grow on LinkedIn. She talks more about like your profile and how often you should be posting and things like that, which I don't really focus on too much. But um, but she has like 70,000 followers on LinkedIn. So I connected with her. She connected back with me, and then I can use Sales Navigator and say, okay, I want to find everyone that's a first connection to her, but as a second connection to me, that is also a owner or a founder that's located in, Minnesota or whatever, and start to build out connections with those people because they're following her because they want to learn how to grow on LinkedIn. So they're probably good prospects for Rainmaker. So those are a couple examples of like audience and audience intent that people could think about. But again, I use Sales Navigator for the most part, and it works out great. Um, and then the bottom layer is like campaigns, strategies, and tactics. So for myself and all my clients. We do an outreach campaign where we identify an audience and then we want to build out more first connections. And we're typically reaching out to 25 people a day, Monday through Friday during normal working hours. So 125 people a week, 500 people a month. We're getting between a 15 and a 50% connection rate back. Um, and um, and then that's usually working out pretty well. If somebody doesn't connect back within 30 days, then we'll rescind the invite. And then you got to wait at least 3 weeks until you can invite them again to connect. But then we'll, kind of create these pools of people that we could reach out to at later dates and try and connect with them. And so most people, they're not connecting back because they don't want to. A lot of times it's because your invite gets pushed down, they're busy, things like that. Um, and then we also will a lot of times do a LinkedIn message campaign where we'll, after someone connects, use an authentic message of a thank you, right? Don't ever try to sell anything. Don't even try to help them in that message. Just thank them for the connection. And then, if they don't respond, a lot of times we'll send out a second message that'll be, one of my clients, he has a law firm and he's breaking into the blockchain industry, and he's following up and saying, like, hi Mark, I find myself more and more writing about the intersection of law and blockchain, and I'm wondering if there's any topics you'd have interest in me writing about. Well, the great thing about that is he's getting wonderful response. He's getting people asking him to write about certain topics or even address certain issues they're running into. So he's immediately positioning himself as an expert. He's getting feedback. He's not trying to sell something. He's just adding value. And he's positioned that question because he knows that blockchain founders have a lot of issues with how the law is being dictated here in the United States. So that's another example of a campaign type that will run quite often for clients. But yeah, there's I think LinkedIn live streams are probably the number one way for businesses to grow on LinkedIn, because you can create topics and create these live streams, get them addressed to specific audiences. And if you're getting people to click the attend button, you're starting to generate an audience of people that are interested in your topic, and they have enough trust and faith in you to click the attend button, showing that they want to learn from you. And the wonderful thing about that is after an event is over, I'll respond to each attendee and thank them for attending. And if they ask them, if you happen to have missed the live stream, give them a link to the recording. But then I'll end it with saying, if you'd like to learn more about LinkedIn and LinkedIn strategy, would be happy to chat with you at your convenience. And then I send them my Calendly link to book a one-on-one. And so for a lot of B2B businesses, that's kind of the lifeblood of their pipeline, is getting meetings scheduled. And that's a great way to get meetings scheduled, is following up with attendees after you have done LinkedIn live streams.
Oh yeah, like everything you just said there, although I couldn't have said it near as well as you, but I really relate to the overall general message of LinkedIn and what you are advocating for, because when it comes down to it, and for me, I had to actually learn a lot by actually going to LinkedIn events in person. Depending on what city you live in, they will have what a lot of, I guess, organizers call LinkedIn Local Live. And you go and actually meet people and make connections and find people that are like minded and
Yeah.
have similar goals. Now,
Mhm.
I don't think a good percentage of those people are entrepreneurial minded, but
Sure.
it at least gets you out there meeting people, and it kind of gets you kind of like the person. And I think I know who you're talking about. I was trying to think of their name and haven't thought about them in a while, but I think
Mhm.
it might be the same person that you might have connected with. I feel like they're connected with everybody, and they have
Could be.
super, pardon?
Yeah, it could be. You never know. Yeah.
Yeah, no, they have like super advice on how to connect on LinkedIn, and you're taking that a couple of steps higher from what I'm seeing. But that to me, like authenticity and just finding those, not only those events virtually, in person, but just finding the like-minded, the questions, the anything that's posed that's like, yeah, I can speak to that. And I love that that's what LinkedIn is about. I think there are people who are more meant for the more playful types of social media, and then there's people who are a little more meant for something a little more authentic. Because I'm like a round peg trying to get into a square hole on TikTok and some of these other social media sites, but LinkedIn is like totally different. I feel that connection, that authenticity, and
Hmm.
it's amazing to have people like you who really can take that to another level or two up and really
Hmm.
help people go up their game.
Yeah, and well, I love the transparency of really of the model that we've built. I mean, again, all we're doing is automating LinkedIn best practices. You could go and do virtually everything that Rainmaker does if you want manually. And so there's a campaigns page at rainmakergrows.com, and people can go and look at all the different campaign types that they should be considering, and they can go do 11 out of those 12 themselves. They could start doing those things manually right now. So
So let's talk a little bit about how people can find Rainmaker and how they can find everything else that you're doing, how they can just get in touch with you, other than, of course, LinkedIn.
yeah, no, that's great. So rainmakergrows.com is the domain, and I'm it's fairly new. I think the current version is only a couple months old, and I want to make it more of an educational resource. But right now, you can go to the campaigns page and you can read about all the different campaign types that you should be thinking about with LinkedIn. Also, all over the site is free consultation. That's a Calendly, and it's to me. So right now, I am doing all of the sales and marketing, and I'm also doing all of the work on the back end to with my process and my software to automate everything. So I would be happy to chat with anybody one on one and just talk through how they should be using LinkedIn. They just gotta book something through the free consultation button.
Awesome. So I have one more question, and it's a question that I actually didn't think of until we started doing this. But have you ever thought about what your life and career might have been like if you had gone into the workforce? Are you ever curious about what that would be like? Would ever want like one day or a week to live that life, or are you just good?
Yeah, no, certainly. I think it's normal for us to always kind of, yeah, for us to question, what ifs and kind of reflect. And um, yeah, I think I probably could have done a number of different things, had my life, been different. I don't think I would have necessarily have always gone into the entrepreneurial field. I think that was just kind of luck and timing and all that. So, but it is something that I'm really grateful for. And I was, on another podcast a few weeks ago, and was asked like, well, what's kind of your vision for Monkey Island Ventures? And for me, it's to help as many entrepreneurs succeed as I can. And we need more entrepreneurs. We need more entrepreneurship in this world. And if there's any entrepreneurs out there that want to chat, feel free to reach me through LinkedIn, Colin Hirdman. I'm the only one on it, or through rainmakergrows.com.
That was actually a great question that that person asked. I usually ask questions like that, so I thank them for
Yeah.
asking that
Yeah.
for us
Hmm.
because I should have probably
Yeah.
asked. So,
No, it's yeah, no, your question was great, as was that. Yeah, they were both great. Yeah.
well, you were great, you are great, and I love what you're doing. And I have to think if I started as an entrepreneur right out of college, I would still be living in my parents' house. I would not be here. I was made
I
a
don't
little
know.
more for these times where there's a
Hmm.
lot more tools and a lot more things available to
Sure.
do that kind of stuff. I don't think I would have had an idea back now. Be like, I don't know. Isn't Bill Gates doing that? Like,
Right.
I'm not
Yeah,
going to be an
yeah,
entrepreneur. So
yeah.
I think it's really amazing your path and everything that you stand for is just amazing. So I thank you for being here today, Colin. This was Colin Hirdman, co-founder of Rainmaker, co-founder of Monkey Island Ventures, and he has quite a few other businesses in the entrepreneurial graveyard that he also co-founded. So thanks
Yep.
for being on Mark My Words.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mark. Really appreciate you doing this podcast.
Hey, anytime. It was great to hear your perspective. I always love talking LinkedIn. So thanks for being here, and thank you all for listening. I am Mark Schmidt. Mark my words. I'll see you again real soon. Thanks again for taking time out of your busy day to listen to Mark My Words. If you would like to connect with me beyond the show, you can find me on LinkedIn at Mark Schmidt, where I will be talking about entrepreneurship, careers, and anything else that is on my mind. You can also connect with me on Twitter and Instagram at Nimrod1979 and Nimrod79 respectively. This podcast also has a page on Instagram at Mark My Words. And finally, if you want to leave me a voicemail or check out what I'm up to with the podcast, come find me at podpage.com/mark-my-words. Thanks again for listening, and I'll be back with a new episode soon. Bye for now.